The date is the 3rd of December 2024 and Chinese Super League side Shanghai Port have just drawn 1-1 in the Asian Champions League against Guangzhou. While on the surface a fairly unremarkable match, it was nonetheless a poignant and emotional one, with Shanghai's goalscorer on the day bringing the curtains down on a lengthy 8-year spell in the Far East. A Brazilian by the name of Oscar, one of football's most curious nomads. But let's rewind to when and how the journey began for the last superstar in China. Back in 2012, a fresh-faced Oscar arrived at Giants Chelsea in the Premier League for a fee of £25 million from Brazilian side Internacional. He was the next step in the journey for a talented creative midfield talent who could not only create goals and unlock defences, but had an eye for goal too. And at one of the best sides in Europe, he had the chance to truly push to new heights. And for the most part he did. Despite some level of inconsistency, he found himself become a fan favourite, with his ability to produce moments of magic and lift fans off their seat, demonstrated best in his first year with the club as he scored Chelsea's goal of the season, a beautiful curling strike in a 2-2 draw with Juventus in the Champions League. Oscar was a regular at Stamford Bridge even at a time of great managerial change, with more than 200 appearances across 4.5 seasons under Di Matteo, Benitez, Mourinho, Hidick and Conte. And this period of his career was also trophy-laden. During his time with Chelsea, he won 4 trophies, 2 Premier League titles as well as the League Cup and Europa League. It was therefore slightly unexpected then when, at a time when he was part of a squad challenging at the top of the Premier League and in the latter stages of European competition, it would be suddenly revealed that he would be joining Shanghai SIPG during the 2017 January transfer window. He was, after all, only 25 at the time. His peak years were still ahead of him, and it was just assumed that they would be spent at Chelsea, or at least another top European side. But on the other hand, Chelsea had just been offered £67 million, and, as for Oscar, a reported wage of £400,000 a week, which made him the 5th highest player in world football at the time, was a massive incentive to move to the Far East, something Oscar was very open about being the driving factor. And so the journey began for Oscar in China, but at the time he was not the only one. You see, this was the peak period when football was exploding in China. Rewinding back to 2011, around a year before becoming the country's leader, Xi Jinping outlined a vision to turn China from a footballing minnow to a superpower, with a 3-stage plan for the national side to qualify for a World Cup, host a World Cup and win a World Cup. To support these efforts was the beginning of a pumping of money into the game by state-affiliated conglomerates which saw the likes of Didier Drogba and Nicolas Anelka arrive. But this was only the beginning, with the plan accelerated in 2016 with the Chinese FA unveiling a plan to become a footballing superpower by 2050. Suddenly the league became a hotbed for foreign superstars for eye-watering fees on extraordinary contracts. This included Alex Teixeira, Hulk, Tevez, Witsel, Lavezzi and Oscar, the poster boy of the programme among many other players and managers. And for a while it seemed that Chinese football could truly disrupt the game and support its growth in the country. The influx of foreign talent such as Oscar bolstered the league's credibility and drew in fans. But amongst the euphoria, it became clear that this was unsustainable and wasn't having the desired effect. Foreign stars, for the most part, were not interested in supporting growth of the game in the country, rather there for a huge financial gain, with Tevez demonstrating this most. Meanwhile, Oscar himself at the time stated openly that his intention was to return to European football at a high level in a few years. For China, they weren't seeing the expected improvements in quality of their players or growth of the game domestically. And so, in response, the Chinese FA first introduced a luxury tax that effectively doubled the transfer fee for foreign players, before then announcing a salary cap in December 2020, which meant foreign players could earn a maximum of $52,000 a week. As a result, notable players began to exit, with few replacements on the horizon. The CSL's new model was about sustainable development, but this would take a while, with clubs reeling financially from the big money spending era and the COVID pandemic exacerbating this. And so was the boom and bust of the CSL. But one superstar remained: Oscar. You see, since his arrival, the Brazilian had enjoyed success, with his best year in 2018 when he scored 12 goals as Shanghai won their first ever CSL title, and he was named in the League Team of the Year. As other players exited, Oscar didn't, with the Brazilian renewing his contract in December 2019, signing on for 5 more years. From a timings point of view, this was a stroke of genius, with the salary cap imposed a month later. But from a career perspective though, you do wonder about his commitment to playing at a higher level. In the years that have followed since, Oscar has added to his trophy successes in China, but barely anyone outside Asia has seen him in action in years. A footballer who started every game at the 2014 World Cup has not had a sniff of a call-up since leaving Chelsea. Yeah, he has not been shy about speaking about transfer links, speaking publicly about moves to Arsenal, a desire to return to Chelsea, a transfer to Barcelona, and latterly even pictured wearing a Flamengo shirt prior to his move. So why was Oscar so emotional at the end of his time in China? Well, amidst it all, Oscar has been one player who has remained steadfast in his commitment and support of football in the country. Although money has been a primary driver, he's floated his transfer interests. After all of this, he's spent 8 happy years there. He wouldn't have done that otherwise. He's also made 248 appearances, won trophies, and become adored by the club's fans. He has built his life in the country and developed a love for it with his family. At the age of 33 then, it's now finally time for what was the last star in China to return home, ending a remarkable chapter for Oscar. One that was based around money and sacrificing part of his career, but was ended with love.